In this video, we're going to look at what does it take to work with a world-class software development team in the age of AI. So let's dive in. The challenge is that most of the metrics that we look at in software development will show stellar metrics. You'll see people doing more stories, getting more done, but a lot of times it hides some fundamental problems like quality, like being able to change the code in the future. And so this has been the problem with Scrum and SAFe. And the Agile methodologies are that they look good in the very beginning, and you can increase and get a lot of stuff done until you hit that wall. And there's a wall in quality in software where you can just, no matter how much effort you have, there's so much complexity that it's hard to work with. And it starts out small. So a small project in the first couple of years, it's easy. And it doesn't matter what methodology you use. I lived through waterfall, and it was the same in waterfall. You know, first release, no problem. Second release, a little hard. Third, fourth, fifth release, man, we would spend so much time cleaning up code. We'd spend like 90% of our time doing that rather than focusing on actually building new features. I didn't see this for 20 years in Agile as much, and now I'm seeing this again with AI because people are rushing through and not building solid software. AI is fast, but it doesn't know how to write quality code, not unless you teach it. And developers are assuming that AI can write great code, and that assumption is actually not true. Look at the code that it's been trained on. It's been trained on basically the code on GitHub, which are developed by junior developers. So that's what you got. So when you're working with AI, you have two choices. Either live with working with a junior developer or teach them to do better. Now, I think that there's a lot of value in the latter. And we can do this, but we got to understand what better means. And that's our responsibility as humans. That's what we need to bring to the table. A deep understanding of what good quality code is so that we can recognize it and engage AI to build it for us. Let me give you 4 concrete ways that you can support your developers when moving into AI-assisted code. First, challenge developers' thinking, not their velocity. Instead of, can you get it done by Tuesday, ask, are you integrating this into the design model? Number 2, build in time for code refactoring, design reviews, and archaeology. This is especially important because a lot of times we forget that we also have to integrate the new feature into our existing system. And oftentimes it's twice the effort as writing the feature in the first place. So give time for integration and refactoring. Because once we get a system working, once we have a feature that works, the next thing that we need to do, and it's often neglected, is to refactor it so that it's understandable and maintainable. This is a critical step. It's not a really hard step, but when we ignore it and stop doing it, it piles up the legacy code and the technical debt. And, in the course of less than a year, it can become a killer on teams. It's the number one killer that I see on teams. And it happens because once we get our code working, we don't step back and go, okay, now how do we then integrate it? And again, this is not a step that AI does for us automatically. We have to teach it to. The third piece of advice I would give would be to mentor up. So this means that junior developers are mentored by more senior developers, and senior developers are mentored by some of your top people. So we're constantly mentoring and learning from each other. This is critically important on teams because communication and being able to coordinate is an essential part of software development. So pair programming, ensemble programming, or mob programming, where teams work together, actually does a lot more than just generate more code. It generates not much better code. It generates consensus and common understandings. It does all of the things that managers have told me for years that they want to have. This is the price to pay, and it's not a huge price. The price of 2 developers on a task rather than 1. It actually turns out that we lose a lot of time spinning our wheels. So, the data, from all the studies that I've read show that test-driven development not only produces higher quality code, but when you do it in pairs and work through it correctly, you can do it much faster and get more stories done than you could without it. And the real kicker is that it works on the long term as well. It's sustainable. The last piece of advice that I want to give is that the backlog that you're working from is not just a list of tasks, it's an opportunity to teach. So you can learn and share. And teaching your AI is as important as teaching your teams in the future. They need to understand your context. So keeping them in the loop in development is going to be critical for their usefulness in the future. So what is AI like? On a software team, well, it's like a junior developer. Uh, got infinite energy, but you got to be able to direct it in the right places. That comes from both technical and also managerial, because managers have to give AI the space to be trained and to be part of a team. So pairing with other developers and having developers pair with AI is really important so that AI gets to understand what your team standards and practices are, what the way you guys build software, the way you guys organize your code. And the more it understands the context in your team, the better. I think ideally, AI will become another team member, a developer that is able to handle a lot of the details for us, doing what we basically ask it to. But we have to ask it to do the right things. We have to ask it to not only build our systems, but understand the ideas behind it so that we can extend it in the future. Giving a carpenter a saw does not make them an architect. Giving a manager Jira does not make them a designer. The technical skills in software development are not supplemented by the tools. Sometimes the tools can be helpful, but we still have to think. And this is true for AI especially. If we don't think when we engage with AI, it's going to generate garbage for us. So we have to understand what our architecture is and what our domain model is. Without that, it doesn't have the context to build anything that's sustainable for us. So the understanding that developers need, including domain modeling, design patterns, understanding what good design principles are, like separation of concerns, are absolutely critical because those are the things that AI do not know yet. Imagine having a performance analyst that works 24/7, never needs a meeting, and gives you better sprint feedback than most humans. That's what the AI-driven Agile Leadership Toolkit offers. With 5 highly leveraged prompts, you'll be able to generate sprint briefings, flag blockers, and coach your team more effectively, with AI doing the heavy lifting. Download this free guide as part of my AI for Agile toolkit. The link is in the description. The key skills for developers that are good at working with AI is imagination. You know, ironically, you know, it has been known in the industry for many, many years that people who are musicians, who are philosophers, make excellent programmers. Hiring managers and recruiters have known this for many years because they think more abstractly. This is even more so important when we're working with AI. So abstract thinking is a critical skill. Being able to fill in and understand the context and be able to articulate. These are the skills that we developers have been famously bad at in the past, right? I don't actually believe that. Maybe I'm a nerd, so maybe I'm not great at talking at parties, but I think a lot of software developers are really good at articulating complex systems, which is what we have to do in our work. You know, this is going to be even more important. The design skills, ironically, the things that our industry has not focused on over the last 20 years are really the key skills that we need to master in order to work well with AI. We have to teach AI not to do what we trained it to do. We've trained it on GitHub. We've trained it on the vast repositories of public code. It's not necessarily the best code written in the world. And because of that, it has a lot of bad habits. It's really, I think of that old Robert Klein routine, I can't stop my leg. I have many conversations with ChatGPT, and it's like, yes, I understand separation concerns. It's really important, and it can't stop writing bad code. And I say, okay, now apply it to doing this, and it writes bad code. I'm like, you just wrote a method with 5 if statements. We said that was bad. It says, yeah, I know, I'm sorry. But it can't stop itself. Why? Because it is compelled to, because of its training. We have the same problem as human beings, right? We've been ingrained to think about, like, get it done fast, do what our manager says. But we also have to retrain ourselves to think about it in the context of quality, in the context of sustainability. And that's the thing that's been lacking in our industry, sustainability. Building code that's not just a one-off, that can last. And in order to do that, we really have to understand 2 critical things. Number one, we have to understand the nature of change and how to build software that can respond to change. That's what the Agile Manifesto is about. That's what the Agile movement was originally about. And the other thing is, we have to understand how to build software that can change and how to realize that as a process. Okay. If we can do that, and there are just lots of techniques, and there's so many good books about this stuff now. I'm not like espousing something that's a great secret or anything like that, or that I only know in the world. I know many, many colleagues, I know many, many authors who share this sentiment. So this is not hard to find information anymore. Go out there, read Martin Fowler, read, you know, Al Shalloway rather than, Gang of Four, because it's easier to understand when you read Al's book. Read, the O'Reilly series. There's a lot of books out there. There's so many good YouTubers out there. Some of my favorite people in the world are doing YouTube now. Continuous Delivery and Dave Farley, and I just could name names, but go out and research yourself. So this stuff is all known. Use it. Use it, and then apply it to AI, right? Because these are the things that AI needs to understand in order to build our industry to the next level and build software that is resilient to change. When we can do that, we can change not only the software industry, but the software industry touches every other industry in the world. So we can change the world. So let's do it. So what is a leader's role in a software development team in this new age of AI? It's about creating a culture of clarity, about understanding domain models and what it is that we're actually building. When we can do that, we can harness AI and do extraordinary things. If we don't, it's going to generate junk for us. The choice is ours. In this next video, I'm going to show you how vibe coding can either be a success or a failure based upon how we approach it. See you there. Happy coding.